Thank you for joining us on the key points this morning. Like I indicated to you, we'll be discussing issues relating to the Achimota Forest Enclave as they've come out this week. We'll also discuss the work that has commenced by the Privileges Committee. However, the big story also happening today is that three big regions are having regional elections today for the new Patriotic Party: the Greater Accra region, the Western region, and the Ashanti region. So there are lots of eyes on that. Our colleagues are monitoring this across the country, but we're going to Ashanti because that's really like a big contest. There's a question about whether Chairman Wontumi, who is popularly known, his real name is Bernard Enclave, whether he'll retain his position as chairman for the region, among others who are also contesting, like the former MP Honorable Usu Aduomi, who also wants to be regional chairman. It's hard to say who's going to pick it up or whether Chairman Wontumi will remain. Let's speak to our colleague Evans Inkum, who is monitoring events for us today. This is happening in Kumasi, I understand, at the stadium. Evans, can you hear me? Good morning. Hello, Evans. Can you hear me?
Well, good morning, Jifa.
Tell us what things are looking like so far.
Well, Jifa, good morning. I can hear you loud and clear, and I can tell you that everything is set. I can tell you that all is set
what's it
for
looking
the
like?
regional executive elections of the MPP to take off. We're expecting in an excess of 900 delegates to converge here and, of course, elect the next regional executives as far as the new Patriotic Party is concerned. Don't forget, this is the stronghold of the party. In 2020, the party nominal figures gathered some 1.7 million. But that wasn't enough, because if you compare what they had in 2020 to 2016, then we are talking about a drop of 76% to 71%. It is something that is dangling in the minds of these delegates, and it will come into play as they select their executive. At least from what I've been gathering from the ground in the last couple of weeks. But there are people who have also raised concerns about the album and what have you. But let me quickly run by you who qualifies to vote. And I can tell you that the delegates have started arriving. So we hope that in the next couple of hours, we should see them going through the process to cast their vote. But the big question is, who qualifies to vote? We are talking about over 900 delegates who are going to decide among 39 candidates who are vying for 10 positions as far as the Ashanti region is concerned. So who qualifies to vote? Let me quickly run by you. So we are expecting delegates who are members of the Regional Executive Committee, all members of parliament in the region, and here we are talking about 44 MPs who have the opportunity to cast their vote as far as this particular election is concerned. Of course, we are talking about members of the Constituency Executive Committee. So we are talking about 44 constituencies at the moment. Sorry, 46 constituencies, because the latest is that Swami and Efija Central East constituencies, the album have been worked on, so now they are taking part of the exercise. Don't forget that 2 nights ago I told you about the fact that these constituencies had issues with their album. I'm talking about Swami and, of course, Efija Central East constituency, but the album have been worked on, so they are taking part of this particular exercise. Of course, the only constituency that will not take part in this exercise is the Mampong constituency, because they have some level of litigation that they will have to resolve. What I have been told is that they have up to June 6th to go to ADR and address all their concerns. By then, of course, the election will have been over, because this one is happening today. So we have about 5 or 7 days ahead for them to get their issue resolved. Nonetheless, I can tell you that it will not affect the process, because all that they need is some 1/3 of delegates to be able to go through this process. So in as much as Mampong is not taking part of this exercise, will not affect the entire process for today. So we're also expecting some 10 members of the Council of Elders in the region, and I'm going to tell you about development as far as this particular delegate is concerned, because only last night they held a press conference and they expressed their displeasure about how 6 persons in the current setup names were expunged from the list. And I understand they are going to kind of embark on some level of demonstration, but I don't know what form that demonstration will take. But I can tell you that they are going to express their displeasure to the election committee. Early on, I spoke to a member on the election committee, and he said that nothing, no concern has come before them. So they are waiting for that grievances to be officially tabled before them. Then they will know what to do. But they are not oblivious about the fact that something like that has happened. Then, of course, you're also talking about 10 patrons in the region and any founding member or members from the region who is a signatory to the registration document of the party at the Electoral Commission. So these are people who qualify to vote. But let me also make this clarification. In as much as Mampong is not taking part of the exercise, it will not affect the member of parliament in that particular constituency. He is going to vote. The only people or the only group of people who will not be part of this exercise will be the executives. So that is by way of clarification, so that viewers will understand how this whole process is going to pan out. Now let's talk about the atmosphere here. The entire stadium is flooded with banners and posters of candidates who are vying for various positions, and it's not only limited to the region. We're looking at national, because the other poster that I can also see or flooded the entrance to the main Baba Yara Sports Stadium, where the real deal is taking place. And I can see people who are vying for some national positions. For instance, Justin Kodua, who is looking forward to contest with the incumbent chief scribe of the ruling New Patriotic Party, John Boadu. His banner is very, very huge. Hanging, very visible to anybody who is entering the Baba Yara Sports Stadium. Of course, you're also talking about John Boadu, whose banner is also very visible, and to anybody who is entering the Baba Yara Sports Stadium. So sadly, they are also kind of campaigning even ahead of the National Congress that will elect national executives for the ruling New Patriotic Party. Don't forget that right after the regional elections, then the party will move to the national elections, then to the parliamentary primaries, and then the ultimate, the presidential primaries. In terms of security, I can tell you that the security is very tight here. One thing that I have observed is that when you enter, you are not likely to come back again. So the moment you enter, the policeman will tell you that, hey, I have identified your face, so you are not coming out again. All these measures have been instituted just so to maintain law and order, and also to ensure some level of sanity as far as this particular process is concerned. It has become very difficult in getting some of the committee members to speak to, because of a plethora of issues that have engulfed this whole process. Starting last night. So let's talk about TESCON. There are some names that are alleged to have been expunged from the TESCON album. And yesterday, they made allegation of even presidents of TESCON, of the various tertiary institutions, whose names have been expunged from the album, and they have expressed some level of displeasure about that. And they gave some level of evidence. For instance, if you go to the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, Collins Nana Beidu, who is the current president, has been replaced by FAT, the current Nasara coordinator. That is one of the discrepancies that you can find as far as their grievances, which they have scripted here, is concerned. So, everything is set. We don't know how the committee is going to react to all these plethora of issues that are emerging as far as among the various identifiable groups is concerned. But it's just a matter of time. We're going to still observe the ground, try and engage them, and also get their reaction. And then in the course of time, we will let our viewers know. So from the Baba Yara Sports Stadium, this is the MPP Ashanti Regional Executive Elections. William Evans Inkum, and we'll be coming back to you. Jifa.
Thank you very much for that, Evans Inkum, Ashanti Region Bureau Chief, bringing us those details. And we'll be breaking in intermittently for updates from the Baba Yara Sports Stadium, where the MPP's elections for regional executives is happening. We'll also bring you updates from the Western region, the Greater Accra region. We'll bring that to you as and when we get them. But it's still the key points, and we're back to studio with our main issues. And what a busy week it's been with a campaign to, quote, save the Achimota forest from land grabbers, as the Ghana Anti-Corruption Coalition petitioned the Office of the Special Prosecutor to investigate how Sir John allegedly acquired lands in the Achimota forest and the Ramsaya site as outlined in his last will and testament. For members of the coalition, the declassification projected their worst fears that the powerful, the politically connected, and the elite in our society were seeking to leverage their position to secure the last stretch of prime land in Accra, using the Owu family's petition as a cover-up to acquire same. Hence the need for the OSP's office to investigate the will of deceased Sir John. Well, this week I spoke with the CDD's Kojo Asante. He told me that there's the need to stop all these land grabs, and we need to draw a line under it. We'll bring you his thoughts later on. The Office of Special Prosecutor, however, has announced that it's commenced investigations into the will of Sir John. It's unclear how this will progress, save for the statement that we've been given. But separate to that as well is the Lands Ministry review of all land sales in that area, covering some more than 1,800 acres. One's not sure what this is also expected to achieve, because the main concern for many Ghanaians is that this declassification should be overturned and the Achimota Forest Enclave should remain reserve. So what do we do? Well, that's why we have our guests in studio with us. To my immediate left is the Honorable Appiah Kubi. We started this conversation with him last week, so he's here for the final stretch. You're welcome, Honorable. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And then also we welcome Kwame Jantwa, who is with the CPP. Thank you very much, Mr. Jantwa, for making some time for us today.
Good morning, Jifa.
And at the far end is my good friend, Abraham Amaliba. I call him Abe. He's the Director of Legal Affairs for the NDC. Thanks for coming in as well.
Thank you for
having me. So I'm the only non-lawyer here, so I guess...
Is it the case that we are not your friends?
You are not... Oh, no, you are all my good friends. You are all my good friends, of course. You are all my good friends. So I'm the only non-lawyer here, so I guess there's a lot I'll be learning. So let me start with you, Honorable Appiah Kubi. So since we were here last week, a lot had happened. The ministry issued a statement saying they were going to review all the land sales in the Achimota Forest area. And then the Office of Special Prosecutor is also seeking to investigate Sir John's will. The story seems to have taken a different direction.
Well, those two interventions are very timely and refreshing. I want to commend the minister who says that I'm going to review purported allocations to people in respect of Achimota forest lands. I commend him highly. He has listened to public opinion and he's reacting to same, so that is refreshing. The special prosecutor's intervention is also very welcome, what I have about that is it should not be limited to only the Achimota forest. Indeed, I'll be happy if we commence investigations into all purported grants of public lands from beginning of the country Ghana into present day times. Indeed, it will be a long road to traverse, but it will be a justifiable one, so that lands acquired for the purpose of public interest remain used for the purpose of public interest, so that this will prevent any person who wants to acquire any public property for personal use. It's a good start when people complain about Achimota Forest and, the state agencies. The minister wants to make a correction. Good start. But it should not be limited to Achimota Forest alone. And in fact, even in Achimota Forest, it should not be limited to a certain period. It should be all purported grants to members of the public who will not use the land for the intended purpose for which it was acquired. And indeed, from all my readings, the land was acquired for the purpose of creating the forest enclave for Accra area. And any attempt to divest any part of it for any intended purpose, contrary to the purpose for which it's acquired, I have always said that it's unlawful and unconstitutional, and for which reason I expect Achimota Forest to remain Achimota Forest. There is this argument of peripheral land. Peripheral only means circumference. And if you take the circumference away, there comes another circumference. And therefore, in a few years, somebody will also come and talk about another peripheral. And therefore, peripheral goes on until we reach the center. So I don't buy that argument of peripheral lands which are not intended for use as forest lands. In any case, there are other forest areas where we have the boundaries as restricted places, so that it protects rather the forest, not that it is not necessary to be used for forest, and for which reason we have to divest it. I totally disagree with that concept. But I'm happy that now the public awareness is getting all of us set up so that we'll keep Achimota Forest there for reasons that the land was procured. And in all sincerity, I want us to go beyond that, even look at increasing the forest cover for Accra, because at the time of the acquisition, the population was about 1/10 of what we have right now. And the colonial government, in its wisdom, decided to keep that forest to serve as a sieve of the carbon emissions into the environment for the people of Accra. Having grown tenfold the population, there is no justification in saying that we have to rather divest or declassify part thereof. I think that if anything at all, we have to create more forests. So the concept must not only be conservation of forests, but it must be recreation, redevelopment, and development of more forests. Okay. So what I'm saying is that we don't even have enough to have the luxury of divesting parts.
Okay. Let me take the comments from Kwame Jantua. So we've seen how this has gone from the announcement to the outcry, the uproar, then the will of Sir John was put out in the public domain. Many questioned the ethics of that, but the reality is, to the extent that there are issues in there that relate to this Achimota Forest, which has become a huge matter of public interest. Now it's become a subject of investigation, even though the will is also being litigated in court. And then the lands minister says, well, I want to probe all the sales that have happened in the Achimota Forest area. I just want, so it's specifically 1,185 acres of land acquired that, a lot of it has been sold off. I'm not sure what that's meant to achieve, because I think what people want is the disclassification should be overturned so that Achimota Forest remains as it is.
But if the disclassification is only overturned, that will not solve the problem.
That will not, okay. Mr. Jantua.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning to our viewers. As Honorable indicated, I think it's not only the situation to do with Achimota Forest that should be looked at, but the entire land tenure system in this country should be looked at. and this should be the tipping point for that to happen. Should be the tipping point for that to happen. I asked myself the question when Honorable was speaking. I asked myself the question, if Kofi Bentil hadn't put this particular thing on his Facebook page, would we have heard of it? And it goes to show quite a lot of this is happening in the country and has been happening for quite some time. If you look at the cocktail of things and how it's progressed and how it's getting into areas that we didn't even expect it to get into, it's the tip of the iceberg. You know, there has been contestations with regards to the ownership of the land. When we've been saying, oh, the old family owns it. Some other families have come from the Osu area saying it's not for the old family. That has to be looked at. And from the documents I have read, and I've spoken to some of the members of the old family, it shows that the land is theirs. Now, were they compensated effectively is another question. Understand it was 1921, eh?
So they were paid for the 1921 acquisition,
but not the 19...
But not, it's unclear that the 1927 one was paid for, because I've also seen a judgment, a court judgment, where that bit was litigated all through. And the position was that they were not entitled to anything.
Haven't we breached the Constitution then? Article 20, I think it is, which indicates that any land that is compulsory purchase should be compensated for. Have we not breached that Constitution? Should that not be the starting point of compensation? No? Honorable doesn't seem to agree with me.
He'll
yes,
take note of that.
Yes,
He'll come to that.
Because definitely, if you've taken my land and the Constitution says, the Fourth Republic Constitution says it needs to be compensated for, should we not compensate the owners of the land? Then the question of the special prosecutor, what is he investigating? Is he investigating
the OSP?
Yeah. Is he investigating the corruption element? Is that what he's investigating of Sir John's will? Or what are the terms of reference? I think it is very important for him to give the terms of reference of what he's actually investigating, so that it doesn't happen that if there's a conflict of interest in there, it is shrouded under some table. Because it has to be an open and transparent consultation and investigation. With regards to the minister indicating that he's going to investigate all lands, should it be the minister? What if he finds that people or authorities in this Fourth Republic and even before have actually benefited? Is he saying that he's going to expose all those names? I think the best person or the best group to investigate this is an independent, non-partisan commission, so that the truth comes out. Because you see, where Achimota Forest is concerned, it's not only the ecological bit we're talking about, but it's also a place where rainwater is captured. Can you imagine if Achimota Forest is turned into, as they say, a Hyde Park of Ghana? Can you imagine what can happen to those areas in West Legon and the other parts?
Gulf City,
all those areas. Because you know that area is flood prone, because the soil is more clay than actual soil, so it doesn't absorb the water quickly. If you remember last year, the kinds of floods we had in the West Legon area, when it rains heavily and when it's torrential rain, the water is on the surface and finds it difficult to sink in. And I know that because I live in the area and my house was flooded last year because of that. And so I believe that if we're really going to get to the bottom of this, it has to be an independent committee or commission that the minister should put in place. You
mentioned the Office of Special Prosecutor. What are the terms of reference? I admit we don't know too much. I'll read what the statement said, and it was quite brief, I must say. Kisi Ejabing and his team have writing very brief statements and art. It says the OSP has commenced full investigations into suspected corruption and corruption-related offences in respect of alleged improper and unlawful acquisition of state lands at the Achimota Forest Enclave and the Ramsar catchment at the Sakumono area by the former chief executive of the Forestry Commission. Ministry for Lands and Natural Resources is directed to fully cooperate with the OSP.
Jifa,
That's all.
Jifa, read that bit, improper. What do you read that bit again?
It says
Improper.
alleged improper and unlawful acquisition of state land.
He shouldn't even put that in there.
Why so?
Has he proven anything? It's alleged, but has he proven anything? Who is alleging? Who is alleging? Is it government who is alleging? Is it Forest Commission that is alleging? Who is alleging? He is going to probe it.
Let me help you. There's a complaint. I heard if I said that.
The Ghana Anti-Corruption Coalition.
They have complained.
Yeah,
They filed a petition requesting a probe.
in consonance.
But you have an issue with the wording.
Yes, I have an issue with the wording. He's there to do a job. Whether anti-corruption has filed or haven't filed, he should go and do his job. He shouldn't attach it to anybody's suit that they've put in. We want a transparent job. If you say alleged, we don't know whether Sir John acquired these things legally. We don't know the process Sir John went through to acquire it. Let's have the investigation and let's see how it was acquired. Yes, it looks fictitious now. But what if in the end he acquired it properly?
Doesn't it bother you that somebody who was a forestry commissioner would then potentially have used his position to acquire sites that have not been declassified, would acquire an area that is not open to everyone? And let's take note, the minister did explain that the reason they've had to declassify is that there are a number of people who have leases and subleases also from the Owu family, and they can't develop the area because it's still designated as a forest reserve.
Yeah, but is the land available for acquisition at all?
Okay, so that's the way you sit.
Fair enough. Fair enough. But he is proven innocent before proven guilty. Yes, there seems to be some kind of conflict of interest in there. What other places and what other things in Ghana here are under conflict of interest? You know, the hoo-ha is the mistrust of government bodies, and I will not even say only MPP. The two parties that have ruled this country in the last 30 years is NDC and MPP. The people do not trust that they will do the right thing because the grabbing has gone on right through this Fourth Republic, right through.
From 1957.
Well, we are talking of today.
Oh, please.
We are talking of today.
Here we go.
Let's go. Yes, in the Nkrumah time too, it happened.
Yes, so why not?
No, but I'm saying that we are looking at the Fourth Republic today. What did we do about it then? We didn't do anything about it.
Okay.
Today, it has come to meet us, and we have to look into it. And I hope it's not going to be a knock of heads between MPP and NDC. This is a situation where everybody should put their hands to the wheel and make sure we get the right thing. The Owu family are stuck in the middle because the property, to some degree, is theirs. When you look at the history and you look at how it was acquired and you look at what their grandfather did to acquire those lands. Yes, it's a huge expanse of land. But you know something, Jifa? There is nothing that you do in this country which deserves a favor that another favor isn't done to the people who are giving it out. So that's where the challenge is.
So there is a perception that the Owu family are being used for public officials to have access. Because if they were entitled to a certain portion, why add more that they didn't petition or ask for?
Jifa, it is possible. I can't say so, but it is possible. Look, in Ghana today, when your car breaks down by the roadside and somebody helps you to put it in a safe place, when they finish, they stand and look at you. Why are they standing and looking at you? They're expecting you to give them something. That is the culture we have in Ghana today. And that culture should stop because it's got to do with trust, transparency, accountability of our public officials. And if we put you in a certain position, we expect you to be able to show trust, confidentiality, and transparency in whatever you do and accountability. But it looks as if the people are here and those in power are here and we vote them into power and they do whatever they want because they think they have the power. And it's wrong. The people kick against it. And if the people kick against it and that kicking against it becomes violent, that is where we have big, big troubles in this country. That's why it should be looked at and looked at transparently with an independent commission.
Okay, I'll come back to you on the issue of the probe and what it could achieve. Mr.
Before AB comes in, you know that the chiefs, the Garmanches office,
yes,
has sent a letter,
yes,
indicating that really they are not in favor of what is going on. Are they going to be part of this type of investigation? That is why if we had an independent commission, at least some of them could be roped in to also direct and see that this thing that they are doing is going to be transparent enough.
All right. Yes, Mr. Maleba, your preliminary thoughts, and then if there are any things you want to raise from what Honorable Apiakubi said or what Mr. Kwame Jantwa said. Honorable Apiakubi wants an investigation from independence of all state lands. Mr. Jantwa feels that we need an independent commission. It shouldn't be the Lands Ministry or the OSP who should
and we should look at the land tenure system. That's important.
Okay, so let me start by saying good morning to your viewers. I want to indicate that last week Friday, on your morning show, I indicated clearly that apart from the Owu family, there were some persons who have also acquired lands in the Achimota forest. I made it publicly clear. Indeed, he was on the program with me. I said a lawyer close to the Owu family indicated to me that some other persons, apart from the Owu family, have acquired lands in the forest. Not long, a day after, it came up that we have a will in which Sir John is granting lands to people. But there are more names. I can assure you, there are more names. You see, Ghana, our beloved Ghana, is becoming a kleptocracy. You want me to repeat that? Our beloved Ghana is becoming a kleptocracy, where the rich, the powerful leaders enrich themselves at the expense of the citizens. That's kleptocracy. Where persons who have been entrusted with our resources begin to use the resources for their personal benefits. And this is what is happening with the Achimota land saga. From the word go, I indicated that, look, we didn't need to even compensate the Owu family because under Article 20 of the Constitution, they were not entitled to any compensation. Granted that in 2019-27, that acquisition was not compensated for, but today's Ghana, under Article 20, they were not entitled because the Constitution is clear. The Constitution says that lands acquired before the coming into force of the Constitution are not subject to compensation. That's the case of
Yes. I remember that case.
So that was the interpretation given to Article 20. So even if the Owu family made some petitions for grant or for compensation, it wasn't proper for the state to chop off part of the Achimota forest and hand it over to them. It's wrong. But it has happened. It has happened. Because government has entered into an agreement with them, and as a result, government has given them portions of the land. But the question is, why is it that the land kept changing? The size of the land kept changing. The minister has come with explanations. I've heard those explanations that they give.
Just to be fair, I'll outline them. So one of the reasons for the amendments or the variation in the land acreage awarded the granted the OWUs was, one, they were not entitled to the prime areas of the forest, and so the areas they were given were devalued. Then there was the issue of the situation where these lands they were given, they wanted certain areas, and by denying them that, it further devalued what they were given. So with that and the monetary value, it meant that they were granted more and more to cover those requirements.
Look, in the first place, I've indicated here this morning that they were not entitled to even any compensation, and I've backed my submission with concrete evidence about what the law says.
Yes, apart from that case, there's actually even a judgment.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, if on humanitarian grounds they were being given some portions of the land, and because they were relocated, you must increase the acreage. For me, it doesn't make sense, because it should have been take it or leave it. Because in the first place, you are not even entitled to it. But you know the Achimota forest. You know that we all drive past the area. Tell me, for God's sake, which part of the Achimota forest, the circumference of the Achimota forest, which part is not prime land? Tell me. You just tell me. Which part of the Achimota, the circumference, Gimpa, which part is not prime land? So I've said again, Ghana is becoming a kleptocracy, and so you have state officials engineering and making it look like because they are moving them to another place, there's one place which is prime, another is not prime. So for that matter, let's increase the acreage. Who knows that whether or not after increasing the acreage, they will not benefit from it? I'm talking about the public servants. So that's why I'm saying that Ghana is becoming a kleptocracy. On the issue of investigations, the special prosecutor conducts what is called criminal investigations, which investigations could lead to prosecutions. Now, and I find that aspect of it very, very, very strange.
Why?
In law, there are 3 lawyers here. Or 2, you are not a lawyer. Apart from me. Look, in law, there is the saying that death ends it all. Particularly in criminal matters. Death ends it all. You are investigating Sir John at the time he's dead.
It's not.
No, it's a will. You are investigating him. That's a will. Why?
His last testament.
Why? What is a will? A will is that this is what I want my properties to be done to when I die. So that's a man. So the will you are talking about is the Sir John speaking. Oh, it's Sir John who is speaking in the will. Now you are investigating criminal. You are conducting criminal investigations. Now, when it turns out that wrong has been committed, whom are you going to prosecute? The dead man? Or the beneficiaries who have not played any active role in the acquisition of the properties? Because in law, there must be mens rea and there must be actus rea. There must be intention, and the conduct
An act of intention.
and the conduct must coincide with the intention. So are you going to prosecute that his nephew who is in the US and yet properties have been given to her and she didn't take active part in the wrong, if wrong has been committed at all? So it's a wrong move. It's a wrong approach.
So what's the right approach then? Is it what the Lands Ministry says they are doing to review the sale of more than 1,000 acres of land in that entire Achimota Forest Enclave?
I have said, and I've indicated that in respect of the Achimota Forest, we need, he has indicated an independent commission of inquiry. I have also indicated that we need a bipartisan committee from Parliament to deal with it. Now, if you then have a committee sitting on the matter, and it is open to the public, and you invite people to come and testify, we will get to know how the land, the forest in Achimota was distributed to public servants, apart from Sir John. Because people will come and make representation at the committee level or at the commission. If you indicate that you want it to go to the special prosecutor, he's just going to be limiting himself to the will, and that will not address our pain. Our pain is that a number of public officials have acquired lands, or people in powerful positions have acquired lands in the Achimota forest, not just Sir John. And so this inquiry, a bipartisan approach, would have given opportunity for all persons who have information to provide same to the commission. So that at that level, when we are able to conduct that investigation, the report emanating from that investigation would indicate that these lands are all taken back to the state, and for the state to keep in trust for all of us. But criminal investigations, I doubt how that is going to be. And I don't want to believe that this is a charade for people to say that, oh, government is doing something. Government haven't slept over it. Since this matter came up, you see they have instituted, they've asked the federal prosecutor to, as it were, investigate. But that investigation will not unravel the challenges that we have in the Achimota forest.
But just a quick one. Honorable Apia Kubi says we should investigate since independence.
Yes.
Is that realistic?
Why not?
Look, we have something right in front of us to deal with. Let's deal with that. And then, subsequently, we can put up a commission to look at all lands, including lands in my village, which have been taken over by public officials. But for now, there's a burning issue, Achimota Forest, which is the only green belt in Accra. Let's deal with that. Let's focus. If we decide to be looking into different bottles, we will not focus on one particular thing. And I think that let's focus first. Okay. His call is not bad, but now there's something which is burning.
But if we were to go by your assertion, those in the Nkrumah region, they are all dead, so we can't prosecute them, can we?
No, I've not even. That's why I cancelled. That's why I decided to do away with the.
I think the Fourth
criminal
Republic is the most
investigations.
important, yeah.
And for criminal investigations, it is not the way to go, because you cannot prosecute dead people. And so, mine is how do we get back those lands? That must be a public inquiry, and we'll identify those lands and take them back. That's the point.
Let me read some text messages, and then I'll come to Honorable Apia Kubi's thoughts. This one from Power from Sefri Pabwase. The Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources should immediately revise their decision to declassify the Achimota forest, assuming they gave the land to the landowners. If they continue with this, other families from other parts of the country will also seek to claim lands absorbed by government, and this could cause more problems. It will lead to the loss of more forest resources, which have a purpose to serve the country and each and every Ghanaian life. This one from Stephen Akwabenya Jifa, chief executives of the lands and natural resources and their agencies and the forestry agencies, politicians need to be investigated as to how acreage of the Achimota forest moved from the 118 to the 361, and those found guilty should be prosecuted and lands taken from them. The land grabbing is too much. A.U. Farouk from Tamale North. Seriously, the Achimota forest saga has exposed the illegal activities of some of our own leaders when power is given them. Never again. This one from Newlands, Francis. We all have a responsibility to protect Mother Earth. Our institutions need to be strengthened. Another one here from Aaron says, good morning to you and your panelists. The Achimota forest is now holy land for some groups of religious denominations, and that is one reason why we must maintain it. State authorities must also see to it that forest reserves are protected and remain so to preserve wildlife and prevent any other foreign encroachment. And those were some of your messages. Thank you very much. Honorable Apia Kubi.
Yes. When we are discussing matters of law in public, we have to be careful not to be showing our sentiments. So for me, I want to discuss it without my personal interest.
No problem, but
And
I think
the issue of compensation.
Okay.
The payment was made, the acquisition was made under Cap 127, not under this constitution. And the case in reference, Tetechu, as Attorney General, stated clearly that Constitution acts prospectively, not retrospectively, for which reason that one cannot come under Article 20 of this present Constitution. Again, the law, position of the law is that upon acquisition of a land, if even compensation is not paid, your right is not to the land, but your right is to compensation. So whoever purports to want to give land back in satisfaction of compensation would have done something wrong. The law does not permit that give back some land, and the law does not also consider the humanitarian grounds in land acquisition, compulsory land acquisition.
Are you reacting to me, or you are?
No.
Because what you are saying,
I'm reacting generally.
It's not in contravention of what I said.
No. I'm not reacting,
Okay.
but I'm saying, I'm re-emphasizing and indeed making some corrections. And indeed, when it comes to acquisition of land, it is the purpose, the public interest is what is considered. Once the land is acquired for public interest, it remains public interest in its use. Any other use or interest is extinguished, so that we cannot say that pursuant to the acquisition of the land, I am coming on compassionate grounds to give part to Mr. A or Mr. B for a use that is contrary to the use upon which the acquisition was made. Let's get that one correct. And again, the time to start the investigation. I agree with you that there is a present situation that we need to deal with. But I'm also saying that criminal action is not time bound. It's not time limited. And therefore, all such purported grants, which are also unlawful, ought to be investigated. And let us not situate this within a time frame of our national life. What is wrong in 1957 is wrong in 2022.
But the point is, we don't want to
No.
muddy the waters.
I agree with you. Let's do what we have on our hands, but let us not leave also people to benefit from wrongdoing in the past. In the past. And again, let's go to the Special Prosecutor's Office. And the act is right in front of me. The Special Prosecutor's Office, the preamble to the enactment says that they are to investigate corruption and corruption-related offenses. So it is not situated on a person. And if you go to Article 41 F of the Constitution, Ghanaians enjoy it for the purpose of time, it shall be the duty of every citizen to protect and preserve public property and expose and combat misuse and waste of public funds and property. And therefore, a combination of these laws presupposes that any time that you see public property in jeopardy, you are enjoined as a citizen to protect it. The way to protect it is to bring an action in court and challenge the waste, misuse, or abuse, or waste. So the totality of it all is that the special prosecutor has every right to investigate corruption and corruption-related offenses. Be it that the alleged offender may have passed on. But the property of the state must not go in ruin. And also, the person who succeeds must not also benefit from the wrongdoing of the past of some other person. Yes, we cannot prosecute the dead, but yes, we have to retrieve what is missing, or what they attempt to, take what does not belong to them. But again, you know, whole of this Achimota forest land saga, the question I ask is that, did anybody have any right to give any land to anybody at all under the law? And I said that no. And if nobody had that right, the name of that rule comes in. If you don't have, how can you give? So whoever proposed to give anything, if the thing is public land vested in the state, who else has a right to give that land? So all those purported grants, they have come under conveyances. These conveyances are voidable and ought to be voided because the lands are not there to give in the first place. So if Mr. A or Mr. B or Mr. C, whoever, the lands are not available to sell. So whoever has any agreement at all, these agreements cannot survive. And that is the way I'm going. Let's void all purported grants in respect of Achimota forest land because they continue and remain state lands. And the purpose of acquisition has not failed. We still need a forest. Nobody will tell me that we don't need a forest because since 2030, when the forest was established, it has finished its job and therefore let's dissipate it. No, nobody can tell me that. So as long as the interest for which it was acquired has not failed, the issue of giving back is moot. Again, the Tetechuru case says that if the purpose for which it's acquired is even irrelevant at the point, but the next use is also of public interest, it is still then, the land is still public interest land, and therefore public land. So for now, even if we deviate from, let's say, forestry and do school, for example, GIMPA. GIMPA is still public interest service, and for which reason the public nature of the land is maintained. But you cannot convince me to say that I have given to Apiakubi, and Apiakubi has built a house for his family, and that is public interest. That cannot be. That is why, even in the Tetechuru case, sometimes I am just worried. I read Justice Atuguba in that case, and I think that he was making a point right there, because at no point should the interest pass on to any private person. But what I'm hearing now is even in the Tetechuru case, the interest is passing on to private persons, pursuant to the use in public interest during the AU conference. After AU conference, what has happened to that land? And can we say that the present use is still in public interest? Right. So there must be, I support him in saying that there must be a commission to investigate public lands generally. And let's see, but again, that is not...
But you see, it's not just about the investigation of the public lands. It's about whether it can even be returned.
Yes,
I mean,
it must be returned.
In light of this discussion,
it must be returned.
A list from as far back as 2008, 2009 was put out once again, listing people who had procured properties in the airport, cantonments, East Cantonments, Laboni Enclave. But I'm even saying that since that time, there have been more sale. That list is not up to date. So the question is, even if you investigate, what will be the outcome? Are we going to take the land from the people?
The fact is that if the grant is deemed unlawful, how can we sustain that?
Okay.
And so that we have to all of such. And again, I've read Article 41 for you, that you have to retrieve that which belongs to the state. And all of us are enjoined to so do. So it is not that after the investigation, we just list people and validate it. No. The declassification attempt was to change land use to make it legal for people to build properties for themselves instead of the intended use. And I don't find that, lawful.
Okay, let me bring in Mr. Jantua. Yes.
The EI that we're talking about is specific to lands at the periphery of Achimota Forest. So let's be specific there. But Let me ask.
Yeah, but periphery, is it not part of the land?
Well.
And what is periphery? Periphery is
we are not talking about the actual Achimota forest that we see today in terms of where we have the animals and all that. That shrub side.
Yes, but the portion. Okay, so the portion of land I know which is being offered. There are different sites. So there's this site as you approach the Achimota forest. It's on your left.
Exactly.
Taking you to Abofo, but it's still part of the forest.
Yes, that is what I'm saying. The acquisition had a schedule. Any part thereof is the forest land. So when you call periphery, on this table, this is the periphery. When you take away this, you get another periphery, so that the peripheries will go on until the argument
has been made such that we're talking about the forest where, i.e., churches go and have prayers in there. They don't have prayers where we're talking about in terms of so-called periphery. But let Honorable situate clause, Article 20, Clause 6, in his argument for me to see where it stands. And Clause 6 says, where the property is not used in the public interest or for the purpose for which it was acquired, the owner of the property immediately before the compulsory acquisition shall be given the first option for acquiring the property and shall, on such reacquisition, refund the whole or part of the compensation paid to him as provided by law or such other amount as commensurate with the value of the property at the time of the reacquisition.
Have I said something different?
Where does it sit?
No, but he has
I have not said
by saying that the
different.
Supreme Court has interpreted that the public use initially could be a school.
Yes.
But if the public use changes into
forest,
not forest because it's a forest already. Yes. If the public use changes into hospital, it's still public use.
Yes, but
and that is the Supreme Court says.
But have we been told that there's additional public use for this, for what it was acquired for, if it wasn't used for?
Reserving it also just as forest is for public.
And in any case, Supreme Court has said, listen, Supreme Court has said in Nitetechru and Ellis and Co. that the Constitution has prospectively, not retrospectively, and that even Ellis and Wood, the case was in November of 1992.
Yes.
And November 1982 precedes the activation of the Constitution on 7th January of 1993. And even there, you see, it's only about 1 month.
It was closed, but yes,
let alone
1927.
Yes, it was
but
closed.
The point I want to make is
so that
nobody, you've read the Special Prosecutors Act, but nobody is against that. Nobody is saying that the Special Prosecutor has no power to investigate corruption.
Thank you.
But I'm saying that if you investigate and it turns out that there is corruption in the will or the will, Sir John's will, you can see acts of corruption. What are you going to do? No, what I'm saying is that you can't prosecute him because for criminal investigations, when you investigate, your intention is to prosecute.
Yes, if you cannot prosecute.
So the best way to go about it is to have a commission of inquiry where at the end of it, it will recommend that those lands should be returned to the state.
But there's a simpler way in terms of did our public officials, not only executive or parliament, supposed to declare their assets?
No, we don't. That's a different.
Just wait a minute.
That may be another level of argument.
You let him make the point.
Stop me. Let me make my point. When you're making your point, I didn't say anything.
You let him make the point.
So if the special prosecutor is going to prosecute, isn't that the first point of call?
Yes, but the challenge is that special prosecutor has no mandate to secure or look at the asset declaration.
That is why we should change it. That is why we should change it. That is why we should change it.
Order to that.
That is why we should change it.
So that's in the court of the honorables in parliament to amend the asset declaration.
Yeah, because if we amend it,
that is not the subject matter of today's discussion.
It's part of the subject matter.
It is, but it has not been introduced. That's the point. It is, but it has not been introduced.
The fact that it hasn't been introduced doesn't mean we shouldn't discuss it.
I think what many Ghanaians want to know
is that they want to know the truth. truth.
If it
Did
is
Sir John have those properties before he went in there?
So-
So look at what he
Okay,
declared.
so that-
and
what
then
people
compare it.
we can
also-
start that argument.
What people also want to
That is
know
a
is that
whole
whether
great
it's the,
argument.
Why
whether
is
it's
it a
the
whole?
special,
Why?
what people want to know is whether it's the special prosecutor, whether it's the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources. If those lands are identified as having been acquired and there's documentation to that effect, can those acquisitions be made void?
Yes,
That
yes,
is what
yes,
people
yes,
want
yes,
to
yes,
know.
sure,
Yes.
yes.
Even though
Yes.
Sir John may
Yes.
not be alive,
Yes.
that is him as an individual.
Yes.
There are probably other people who've acquired. Are their acquisitions, can they be made void?
But,
That is the
but
issue.
Jifa, if you look at, if it's a true representation
No,
of,
there's a question.
wait,
Let's respond
just,
to
just
this
a minute.
question.
If it's a true representation of Sir John's will, if you look at all the properties on there, all the buildings and cars have dates next to it. The lands that were acquired have no date next to it. So,
Listen.
in that case, when do we know he acquired those properties? Was it before he became forest chairman?
And it's not,
Or-
it doesn't list, the way he writes it is, it's in the
A company
name of a
name.
company. Yes, Honor Abraham, I'll
Yeah,
come
but
to
there's
you.
a question on.
Yes,
that
so
Jifa put.
my
hope
question
we-
about whether the acquisitions can be made, because I think the OSP's investigation is about whether, if those lands are found, can they be made void? Same for anybody else who may have acquired.
But it's still
land.
compulsory purchase by
Yes,
government. So, it can be made.
Wait a
So,
minute, let's
so
see
the
how-
state,
State
having identified that these lands were wrongly acquired, can go to court because it's a will. There's a will now, and ask that those properties
Be
must be
expunged
made
from-
void and expunged from his will.
Thank you.
Stands for-
You
can do
see,
that.
in contract law,
because
if
the
it
will-
is based on illegality, it's voidable.
Yes.
It is based on unconscionability, it's voidable.
Fraud.
It's
Fraud.
based on fraud,
Is
it's voidable.
And to the extent that
If it's
it was
based on
acquired at
stealing,
the time the area was not declassified.
Yes.
Also, so these are all
potentially-
evidences the court, the
Illegality,
judge,
that is also voidable.
these are all evidences the state will use and
So-
present before court to make that part of the will expunge and the
All right,
lands come back.
let's take a quick break and we'll come back. Let me just read these messages. This one from Aaron. The owners of Achimota Forest were already compensated way back in the
Yes,
1920s. There is
Cap 127.
no family that is entitled to any portion of the Achimota Forest. This one from S. Amuzu. It says, in fact, the Achimota Forest issue is a wake-up call for the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources to be up and doing in its responsibilities as far as
Public lands.
monitoring and
Land tenure
regulating
system.
the land acquisition. Things are
Land
very,
tenure
very
system.
disturbing. That's from Charles, rather, from the Bono region. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll just bring you a quick update on what's going on in the Greater Accra and Western regions on the NPP elections. We have some text messages related to that. When we do that, we'll read that and we'll come back to our guests. Thank you very much for staying with us on the key points. So the Achimota Forest issue is still a critical one. So, Mr. Maliba, the question also is, there are other people who have acquired, leases or
In Achimota
sub-leases.
Forest land?
Yes, but when we spoke with the executive director of the lands, or executive secretary of the Lands Commission during the week when there was a downpour and papers got wet and people started conspiring that maybe this could be Achimota Forest sub-leases. One of the issues raised was that, well, the declassification is a process. It's a process that must complete before they can even identify who has what, who owns what. Please just keep chewing on that. Let me speak to my correspondent, Stanley Niblo, who is covering the Greater Accra NPP elections for us at the Trade Fair Center. Stanley, give us an update on what's going on. How are things looking? It's 8:24. Has the vote started?
So, Jipa, so the Trade Fair Center is actually playing host to the Greater Accra Regional Delegates Executives Election, Regional Executives Election. And so just as the delegates, and then the aspirants are trooping in. The process hasn't begun yet because preparations are still underway. And so we are hoping that by 9 a.m., the entire process would actually commence. I must say that currently the situation here has been calm. Security has been beefed, and they are using the hybrid form because they have personnel from the Ghana Police Service, and then also the NPP have, as a party, has also provided its own security. And so we have the hybrid type, ensuring that the election happens on a successful note. And then let me also tell you that it is interesting to actually note that the party, as everything is happening, this is a keen contest between some key party members in the Greater Accra region. So the topmost position is being vied by the incumbent, the Divine Otu, and then it's being contested by Alfred Boy. So currently they are here telling their people. Alfred Boy, for instance, has been telling the delegates or his supporters that they should vote for him so that he would be able to recapture the NPP in the Greater Accra region and also build the party in the region so that they can win more seats in the 2024 elections. And then Divine Otutu has been telling the delegates that he is the incumbent, and so he has worked very hard in the previous elections, and so they should try to retain him so that he can fight for the party in the upcoming election, in 2024. And so we are hoping that those who would actually do their homework very well would emerge the victor in this context.
Stanley Niblo bringing us an update there from the Trade Fair Center in Accra, where the Greater Accra regional elections are happening. Just some text messages some of you sent earlier on that. Let me read them. Sally Nasirudin writes, in the Northeast region, many of the constituency delegates were well taken care of, and now we see the results. This one from Wombay. Tina says, good morning. I thought there is no money in the economy, but these regional elections and the huge sums of money it seems being moved around is very worrisome. Joy Adom writes, my next agenda is to be a delegate. Whatever level is cool. Ghana. Ablade writes, truly, NPP is a capitalist party, AMPA. The way people amass wealth clearly demonstrates that the NPP government is all about the rich, and they are not thinking about ordinary Ghanaians. All we have to do is also try and get our share. And those were some of your messages. You can send us some more, but what's happening is that we'll be bringing you coverage, break-in coverage throughout the day on the NPP's regional elections. Some happened yesterday. Today is day 2. Let's go to the Western region. My colleague, Erica J, is standing by with his update. The regional executives moved the election all the way to Lembele. Let's find out what's happening there. Eric, so tell us, how are things looking like now? I think Eric's mic is muted. We'll try and get him back. But all those elections are happening today, so continue to stay tuned to us. The big one, of course, is not just Greater Accra. There's also Ashanti, where many want to see whether Chairman Wuntumi, his real name, Bernard Entry-Boesiako, will be retained as NPP chairman, or whether he will be, overturned. So that would be an interesting race to watch. We know that some members of the Council of Elders in Ashanti have also complained about their names being expunged from the electoral album. We'll bring you all those updates as and when we get it. Do we have Eric now? If we can quickly do that update. All right, so we'll bring that update to you as and when we get it. So yes, Abraham, I put a question to you to ask you to chew on it, if you can.
If anybody went to the Lands Commission looking for Sir John's name at that place, he won't get it. He won't get it because if you look at the will indicates that those lands are in the name of a company. So you go to the Lands Commission and looking for Sir John, you won't find Sir John. You must look for them because the company is holding the properties in trust. And so if there's going to be any registration at all, it will be registered in the name of the company.
But can you, if you are in a company with somebody else, can you will your share of that
the
easily?
company is not holding in trust. The company is the beneficiary of the grant. And therefore, the thing to do is to indict that company. And in the court of law, we can lift the veil to find the directors behind it and deal with them appropriately.
So it's not cannot. No, you were talking about Land Commission. So after Land Commission, you cannot find.
Yes, but we will find
Sir John's
somebody.
name.
We will find somebody.
So no, you are jumping the gun.
No.
They are talking about how come that Sir John's name is not there.
Because they told us that they can't.
So I'm
see
saying
anything.
that you can't find Sir John's name there. You are looking for the wrong person at the right place. So the person you should be looking for, and in law, companies are persons. They know. So the person you should be looking for is the company.
Yes.
That's how you can trace. But I'm even told that even the company has not registered it there too. So all these things lead to the suspicion that there's some criminal intention.
Indeed, none of the grants have been registered. The reason is that they remain public lands, and therefore Lands Commission will not even register for them. That is why the re-engineering will have to facilitate the registration, because the land as it is now is public land. So even though you may have acquired a conveyance stating that we are devising this part of land to you, you cannot register because it is not the person who is giving to you, it's not his land. The whole family, and indeed I have, somebody sent me a message a little while ago that whole family was in court with the Forestry Commission, and that the court says that whole family is not entitled to any compensation, and therefore that satisfies the presumption that a compensation is adequately paid, and therefore for now the land is public property. So anybody who attempts to divest any part of it to anybody at all is doing mischief.
All right.
But see, Jan Tuwa raised the issue of declaration.
The assets declaration regime.
That is very key also. Because if we are able to follow through this asset declaration, we'll be able to know. But even though it's defective, it's in its current form, we'll be able to know how people acquire their property, whether their properties they acquire can be is commensurate with their salaries. When you look at Sir John, almost all of it or a chunk of it were acquired within 2017 and 2019, 2 years. Now you ask the question: his salary at that office, could he have realized those properties?
But the dates are
But
not,
isn't just
the dates
about
are not
salary?
attached to those.
He's been a lawyer. He's worked with the Ghana National
Yes.
Petroleum Corporation. He may very well be an entrepreneurial individual.
So investigations would unravel all those things. Because how come that when he lost power in the 8 years that he was in opposition, after working for the Kufuor administration, and he was a lawyer, as you have mentioned, the National Petroleum Authority, how come that he didn't acquire all those properties and were only acquired when he came back and was 2017,
for me,
2019?
I'm not interested
So
in
these
the
all
person.
these things are raises questions, and investigations will unravel whether his acquisition were lawful or were not unlawful.
For me, I'm not interested in the person, Sir John. What I'm interested in is the public property. So whoever, I'm not talking about one person. And indeed, even from the shadow, the purported will, there are a lot of companies listed. So I'm interested in the public land, not whoever.
And,
so,
the companies
and the companies,
therein.
whoever has taken anything that is unlawfully taken, must return it to the public. The criminal mind, if established, then there's another realm of law that will deal with it. But for now, we are talking about Achimota forest land. And my position is that the land is still public land, and therefore nobody can claim any part thereof. And any purported grant, conveyance or anything is, for me, voidable or void ab initio, because remember that you can't give what you don't have. And the land, as we speak, belongs to the government of Ghana, Lands Commission holding it in trust for the people of Ghana. And therefore, if anybody makes a grant, if it's not coming from Lands Commission that holds the land in trust for the people of Ghana, that grant, purported grant, is void to begin with.
Yes, Mr. Jantua.
Two things. First thing, the comments that have come in.
Yeah.
It's frightening.
It's frightening.
It's frightening. It's frightening. It looks as if Ghanaians are not angry enough. We're not angry enough to stop some of these things that are going on. And we should be able to let Ghanaians know that coming into public service is not business.
Okay.
It's not profit.
Okay, let me just hold you there. Let me quickly take Eric here, AJ, our correspondent, so we don't lose his feed. Eric, so tell us what's going on where you are in Elembele over the Western Region's MPP elections.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bampo. So as you can see in your shot, this is where we are having the regional delegate conference at the Manle Council structure. For those who are very familiar with this road, from the point where there's a toll booth on the Ancobra River to my current location is about 20 minutes drive. And from that point where I'm standing, it's littered with posters and banners of the various apparent contestants in this morning's exercise. And like I explained, if you come here also, you see banners and posters of the various aspirants. Right on that far end is that of Okekeshe Amankwa, who is contesting for the regional secretary position, the women's organizer, the first vice chairman, as well as other posters of some aspirants. Some women around who are also fashioning and have got some fashion paraphernalia and displaying on show. Now, if you go inside the main auditorium where the exercise is going to be held, that place is dripping NPP colors, red, white, and blue. And I've also seen a couple of posters of some of the national executive aspirants. I've seen that of Bisu, I've seen that of Asabi, and I've seen that of now, in all, some 420 delegates from 17 constituencies here in the region are expected to participate in this morning's exercise. And in all, some 29 persons who presented themselves for the election, from the first vice chairman to the Nasara coordinator. Now, the regional chairman, Francis Ledesia, is going on the post. For the first vice chairman position, there are 4 persons contested. That is Dana Kwesi and San, who is the candidate, additional Raja, who are still from the second vice chairman position to the first vice chairman position. Quite apart from that, we have Atakwache, Beju, and James Obin Jr., who is the former constituency secretary for Chicago constituency. The contest we are taking, what we are hearing is that the contest is between the incumbent, Ansa, and the former second vice chairman, who is Mr. Waja. Now, because of the fact that Mr. Waja has moved from the second vice chairman position to the first vice chairman position, there is somewhat of a vacancy at the second vice. So all persons who are contesting are new. And here too, we have some key persons. We have Mr. Ken Wood, we have Michael Asari Apia, who is a lecturer at the Saturday Technical University. And we have Jonathan Aipa Amua, who was the constituency chairman for Ahanta West. And here too, we are taking signals that the contest is between the lecturer from CCU, Mr. Asari Apia, and Jonathan Aipa Amua, who, as I explained, was the former constituency secretary for the Ahanta West district. Now, for the secretary position, you do know that the current secretary is part lies on the national secretary position. So here too, there is a vacancy of some sort. And there are 4 persons vying for this position. And they are Okebese Amankwa Atika, who is the current regional director of the National Service. Indeed, this will be his third attempt at this very position. Then also we have Dominic Rexosia, who deputized for Charles Bishop.
All right, Eric, thank you very much for bringing us the updates and the loud and large billboards there of those who are contesting and those interested in the national positions. I saw the picture of Charles Bishop there. Thank you very much. We'll bring you more updates throughout the day in our subsequent bulletins. But of course, certainly before we end Key Points, we'll bring you another update from the Ashanti region, Greater Accra and Western regions. Just some quick messages on the things we've been talking about. This one says, I think the special prosecutor is not being swift enough. He has all the evidence with the former PPA boss, but still the man was granted bail and is free, though temporarily. We need to deal with these issues swiftly. This one from Stephen. We are not serious as a country, with all due respect. What investigation are they talking about, and to what end? State property must be retrieved immediately. The government should be bold and take on all these issues. And those were some of your messages. Thank you very much. So, Mr. Janto, you were saying people are not angry enough.
People are not angry enough.
What do you want people to do?
We want people to hold government responsible, because it looks as if once we vote parties into power, we are serving them and they are not serving us. I mean, this thing has been going on. It's not only in this government. It's been going on for years. And it happens and nothing is done. We talk about it and nothing is done about it. So, for instance, when government compulsory purchases land, who decides what it's going to be used for? Is it going to be used from some of the things the manifestos of the party has said is going to be used for? And how do we know, say, Achimota Forest, parts of it that aren't in the shrub area?
But usually the law that... Yes, the executive instrument
and in the executive
instrument, there is... Similar to Atwabo lands that were acquired for the Atwabo gas.
Let me provide information. In the executive instrument, there is a memorandum, and it explains what the land is going to be used for. The purpose is explained in there. And therefore, you find in the executive instrument, you will see the memorandum and the schedule, which describes the land in issue. So that is not contestable.
Let me tell you about Etwabo. You know, it's sitting on a silica mine. Do you know the quantum of silica that we have on that land that Etwabo has been built on?
If we are not careful, we are digressing.
We are not digressing.
No, but I mean, it's an example.
Yes, it's an example. It's an example. I believe, and I'll continue to say it, we've got to a stage in this country where we need a national development plan.
We have.
And not go, we have? Do we?
Yes.
Yes, I was part of ones who drafted it. Where is it? Have you seen it? Is government using it? With a national development plan, everybody knows what projects government is going to do, where it's going to be placed. Because even with these Achimota lands, even if there's an executive instrument, how do we know some of that land is not going to go somewhere else? Although it's going to be used for a compulsory purchased project. How do we know? And so that transparency and that accountability is key. And what does it also do? It builds confidence and trust in government. Because at this present moment, people don't trust that government would use Achimota lands for what they say they'll use it for. And we've got to that stage where we need to sit as a country to look at, we need a national development plan. It helps us all. And not always put individuals in a certain position and put question marks on people we vote into power for. Sometimes some of those people are innocent, but sometimes some of those people can't talk because of the kind of pressure and victimization that might come from the top. And it's not helping us, it's not helping the country.
All right, and I'll take that as your final point. Mr. Maliba, your final point, then I'll give Honorable Apiakubi the last one as well on Achimota land. Then we'll go for a break and come back for the next segment.
I have overflocked this matter, so I think that I can cede my time to them.
Okay. Give it to me.
All right.
Let me use it for you.
Great.
Now, he talks about how to monitor the use of land.
When you say he, who? Amaliba or me?
No, you did.
Okay.
And I'm reassuring you that, save that persons appointed for certain positions and responsibilities probably may fail. It's always stated in the various laws. For example, Forestry Act, Section 14, functions of the various divisions of the Commission. Lands Commission also has the functions also in the Lands Commission Act. So it is always the case that somebody is responsible for taking care of state property. But sometimes people, out of negligence or derogation of duty or complicity in the discharge of wrongful functions, they keep they keep quiet and they take their minds and eyes off what is happening. It is not the case that once the state acquires something, it is there for anybody to use. It is always the case that there is somebody responsible for the upkeep of the state property. And in the Lands Commission Act of 2008 and this Act 767, and Section 4 talks about the objectives of the commission. And in that it talks about the protection, management, and even registration of lands in Ghana. So it is not the case that nobody is responsible. It is the case that either the person responsible is not doing his job, either the person responsible is not competent enough to do so, either the person involved is also complicit in the wrongdoing. So in all cases, like I pointed out to you, the Constitution enjoins us when you find any attempt to take away public property, for you to come to court and get the court to make orders to bring him to order and to retrieve whatever is the subject matter intended to be taken away from government property. So we as a people, and the Constitution says that every citizen, for which reason me and you, we are all enjoined to so do. If we don't do it, all of us are to blame. And indeed, in this case of Achimota forest lands, I can say it on authority that no government would have given land to Sir John. No government official would have given land to Sir John, except that that same person may, in his capacity as chief executive.
I thought you said you don't want to talk about Sir John.
No. I'm saying the same person in the capacity as chief executive may want to be negligent or may want to also do something. Otherwise, when Lands Commission acting for and on behalf of government of Ghana is holding the land in trust of all of us, Lands Commission will not give land to any person.
Are you sure?
No, land.
Well, I think he's right to the extent that all those who have purportedly
So why would they not
haven't
give it
been
to me?
able to develop it.
Yes. Because and they have not been able to even register.
They'll develop it after they leave power.
They haven't been able to register
it.
So it means that.
I think maybe to that extent you can give the Lands Commission a little credit. So the point Lands
I'm saying is that
will say that, well, this is what you have to do. And if you want people to develop it, that's what the government is trying to do.
And in your cases, even the minister coming out with that program declassification had been informed by public officials. And I'm saying that the minister may not be privy to what is happening even on the ground.
Anyway,
and relying on information being.
So let me ask the question.
And then when it comes to
your final one, we need to
when it comes to his information, he says that I want to probe to find out what has happened.
Let me ask
let us not also blame the minister so much, because some people may have fed him with wrongful information. Now that it comes to his knowledge, he says, I want to probe it. And let's pray for him so that he does what is required of him.
Let me ask the question again. If Kofi Bentil didn't put this on his Facebook page, would we have heard anything?
Is he not a citizen of Ghana?
Would we have heard anything?
But okay, I get you. So I think what he's trying to say is that there's always a covert approach to some of these things.
But let us congratulate Kofi for finding
did they not castigate him?
No.
He had to come back and apologize.
I am talking. I'm not talking for anybody. I'm saying, and we are all enjoying.
It's part of your government.
Please don't politicize it. It is not politics.
Okay.
Kofi has found something, and pursuant to the law, constitution that enjoins him to work to protect state property, he has brought it out. Let's congratulate him. But bringing out the information is not also the end. So let us all also encourage the investigation and make sure that at the end of the day, prosecution is in the realm of Attorney General. And my interest is to retrieve the land back to the state. When that is done, as far as I'm concerned, I'll be satisfied.
All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen. It's still TV3 and 3FM. The program is The Key Points. I'm Jifa Bampo. I'm still here with my guests. We take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll tackle Parliament. The honorable members are back. And as always, it's always an interesting session with them. We take this break and we'll be right back.